Alright everybody, welcome back to another deck list. Today we're going to be talking about Mime Lock, I think I'd call it. It is a lock deck. It is kind of a funky lock deck. I'm going to go ahead and explain a lot of these card choices. Quick side note, if you haven't watched if you didn't tune in for the stream this weekend, we streamed the top 4 games kind of sporadically. We didn't really advertise it. We were kind of just like, why not? We should stream it. But we will stream the finals next Friday. I will be posting a whole bunch about it. So, quick side note, finals of the U150 tournament that we have will be posted. If you're staying spoiler free, I won't tell you who's in the finals. So, don't worry about that. Super. So, let's dive right into this Mime Lock deck. Now, this is the deck I was actually considering playing for the upcoming U150 tournament in Bellingham. There is going to be a tournament, they say that's going to around like 16 people or something like that for over in Bellingham. It's super, super hype. I'm really excited. And this was one I was considering playing. Grady and I kind of theoried it a little bit. We were like, this way. I've been saving it because I didn't want to show my super secret deck for the tournament. However, we found out that it's actually not as good as we initially theoried it to be. This list has gone through a lot of changes, a lot of help. It's good in some aspects, bad in some aspects, but I will dive right in. So the whole idea is to lock your opponent out of everything, and then controller top decks with Slow King and Mime Jr. And there's 2 ways of winning. The one win condition is that you mill them out of cards. So you second sight them and you Sleepy Lost away their trump card, their versus secret, that sort of thing. And you just keep lost zoning things that will help them deck out, and you'll slowly just deck them out that way. That's one way of winning. The other way of winning is by second sighting and then Sleepy Losting away 6 Pokemon, so you can win via the Lost World condition. This was a combo at one point where you would use these 3 cards together. We just have a little bit extra support to help us out here. So, one thing you may be thinking of is okay, they're just gonna knock out Mr. Mime over and over again, or Mime Jr. Well, what are you gonna do? So, you have to lock them out of drawing cards, and that can be kind of tricky in U150 because everybody goes for that turn 2 Claydol quite frequently. So, the way the combo is supposed to work, in theory, is that you Porygon Z to initialize all of their draw power, so all of their Claydols, all of their Porygon 2s, that sort of thing. And then you shuffle it back into their hand using Red Card, using Imposter Oak's Revenge, even using Judge if you need to, that sort of thing. You're going to shuffle them all back in. Then you're going to play Delinquent, which discards a Stadium, and then they discard 3 cards in their hand, so it puts it down to 1. And then you use Claw Snag with Weavile. When you evolve it, you get to take a card from their hand and discard it, leaving them with 0 cards in hand and no support Pokemon. And then when that happens, you second sight the top deck, and you use Sleepy Lost to start controlling their top decks over and over again. All they can do is basically just draw pass for the entire game. It sounds like a lot, and it is. And it is kind of tricky to get the lock. If your opponent, let's say, starts Spiritomb, for instance, it's very hard to get that combo off, and yeah, Spiritomb starts do happen quite frequently, so that is one of the downsides of this deck. I never said this deck was good. I just said this was a deck. It's a lot of fun if you get the lock up, but not necessarily the best deck. So that is one, what am I saying here? Oh yeah, that's one issue with the deck. The other issue with the deck is that if you second sight and all 3 cards on their top decks are really good, so let's say they have a Juniper on the top, a Sycamore on the top, and a Versus Seeker on the top, or something like that, you're like, well, crap. I'm giving him a good card, nothing I can really do. The really only thing you can do is then play an Imposter Perestroke's Invention to shuffle their deck, and then maybe play a Chatot G down to hopefully rear-end, find something better, so shuffle their deck and play something better, or play just the Chatot G and hope that 4th card is bad. There's a lot you can do in that sort of sense. But, if they get a card, you have to get that whole combo over again, and it was a lot to get, right? It's weird. If you get it turn 2, it's not necessarily the worst, and it's not hard to get it turn 2. If you can get a Dunsparce out early, or a Collector out early, you're gonna do fine. So, I don't know. There's a lot to be said about this deck. I'm just going to kind of go through some other cards because there are a lot of unique sort of other cards here. We'll start with the Pokemon. You notice that we were playing the 2-1 line for Slowking and the 2-1 line for Weavile. The 2-1 line for Weavile is that so you can evolve one Weavile, de-evolve it, and evolve another one if you need to, if you don't have BTS in play or something, and that gets 2 cards out of their hand instead of 1. Pretty cool. We're playing a 2-1 Slowking line because Slowking is really important. We were originally playing a 1-1 Slowking line, and we were playing the Breakpoint Slowking to help with this energy management that we kind of had an issue with, but we found that we were just like never getting it out. So the 2-1 there. The rest of the Pokemon kind of seem standard. Let's see, we are playing Jirachi and Lapras, and the reason we're playing Jirachi and Lapras is to kind of increase your chances of hitting that Delinquent and hitting that Judge, that sort of thing. We kind of just need that extra little boost of consistency. The rest of these are kind of normal. Like I said, I expanded Shoutout. The Bunnelby is kind of obvious, I would say, for the milling strategy. If they have 3 cards on top of their deck and 1 bad one, 2 good ones, you can go into Bunnelby and just start burrowing them, and as long as you don't give them like a trump card or anything to get stuff back, you're fine, so you can mill them that way. It's kind of mill or Sleepy Lost. I generally find myself going for Sleepy Lost, but you can kind of pivot to either strategy. Depends on what your opponent has in their deck, in their hand, that sort of thing. The Amber Palm, like I said, is they get too crazy with energies, you can start tailcoating things. That is one of the downsides of this deck, is that your opponent just starts loading energies up to like a basic Pokemon. So if they have like a Volcanion Steam Siege, for instance, they can just start like attaching to that. Like if you let them have an energy, like obviously you're gonna try to not have them energy, but if you do your whole busted combo and they had 1 energy on their Volcanion, now you just have to hope that like never comes active, and that's like really sketchy. So Tailcoat kind of just like helps that in a sense. It just kind of controls their board a little bit more, and that's also like the only way you can actually do damage and take prizes. And then the last one is Audino, and the reason that we have this one is just in case you hit that 25% chance on the double tails. When you use Sleepy Lost, you fall asleep, flip a coin, going in your opponent's turn, coming back. If you stay double tails, Audino turns all of your searching cards into an out for Mime Jr. So there's that. In terms of supporters, there's a lot of standard stuff. You are looking at the Delinquent and the Guzma that are a little bit different. And then the only other one I would talk about is Cyrus's, or there's 2 of them, Cyrus's Initiative. This does help with controlling what's in your opponent's hand. Like if you judge them and like you don't hit the Delinquent, you hit the Cyrus's, cool. If 2 of their cards in their hand are already dead, you can flip double heads on this and get their 2 cards. If only 1 of their cards in their hand was good, then you just need to flip that 75% chance of at least 1 heads, and you get to lock them. You don't need to put them to 0, you just need to have them a dead hand, which is kind of hard to do in U150. So Cyrus Initiative is not going to work a whole lot of times, but if they ever get down to 4 on their own, or de-evolve and put them down to 4, you can go de-evolve Delinquent Cyrus to get them down. You don't even need to judge a red card, so there's that option. Or you can go initialize red card Delinquent Cyrus. That's one way of just getting the combo instead of having to hit the Claw Snag. So there's that. And the last one I want to talk about is actually a little bit of an error, and I should have changed it before I presented the video, but I'm really tired. I've worked a lot today. So Roseanne's Research is search a deck for 2 basic Pokemon or 2 basic energies. It's very, very stable in everything, but we don't have basic energies. So there's 1 or 2 routes you can go about it. You can change one of these energies, I'll talk about them in a second, to a basic energy so that Rosie's can grab you an energy if you need to, or you can just switch it to a Holon Mentor, a Bridget, a Lynette's Net Search, even like a Pokemon Fan Club, I would assume. Pokemon Fan Club's like the same thing in this instance. So, switching Rosie's, if you're looking to do searching for 3, honestly, Lynette's and Hollow Mentor are both fine cards, and I think those would probably be your next best thing. You'd go for either of those. So either take this out and add one of those in, or add a basic energy in so that this can actually be double useful. So you'll always be able to activate twins because you'll most always be behind in prizes. Ace Trainer is one you don't see a lot either in U150, but Ace Trainer Delinquent just gets you there. So there's that combo. Sweet. So, moving on to item cards now. You see a lot of the standards, Hyper Diva Spray and Diva Spray, both for the Weavile and for the Porygon Z. You have Imposter Oak's Revenge, which is just old red card, essentially. Last is going to help get cards out of their hand, reduce their hand size down to 0, 1, 2, that sort of thing, so you can delinquent them easier. There is that combo to go initialize red card last to see if you can hit at least 1 and then delinquent. So there's that. Lost Remover is a card, like I said, we've been toying around with. If you watched our top 10 underrated cards video, you saw this card on there. And I think I just wanted to try it in this deck, especially this kind of control-y locky deck. Hasn't really panned out in this scenario, but there might be times where it will. As a Rocket Sneak Attack, look at your opponent's hands, take an item card, and shuffle it back into their deck. It's just another way to go red card, Rocket Sneak Attack, Delinquent. That's just another combo you have there. Same with the Rocket's Trap. It's flip a coin of heads, choose 3 random. So you don't even need the Delinquent. If you flip heads on this, you can go red card, Rocket's Trap, Sneak Attack, or actually it would be other way. It would be red card, Sneak Attack, Rocket's Trap, hope to hit it that way. That's another combo. Same with Captivating Pokepuff, actually. You can go red card, Pokepuff, and then hopefully one of these other 2 lesser ones. So if you hit 1 off of Pokepuff, and then you can go delinquent for the rest of the 3, or Cyrus for the whatevers. So Pokebuff is also a way to look at their hand. We originally had a Mew EX from Holland Phantoms, I think it is, from in here. And what it does is when it's on your bench, you can look at your opponent's hand whenever you want. The problem with that was that our bench space is super, super tight in this list. And it just, like, having that awkward, like, 80 HP EX on your bench is, like, kind of sketchy. So, and then we also have Trick Shovel. It's just an extra way to control your opponent's top deck if you get hexed or if some weird stuff happens where you can't use abilities. You can at least Trick Shovel to try to put something on the top of their deck. And that's it. Items cards, you can add it up to the Free Retreat ones and the Fighting Fury Belt. Kind of obvious inclusions here. Nothing too special. Stadiums is actually a little bit of a different one. I've noticed Lost World and Broken Time. I've noted Lost World and Broken Time Space. I haven't said Broken Time Space, but it's in every deck, like that. But some of these other ones, we're going to play a Skyfield. Like I said, bench space is kind of an issue. We're playing Silent Lab here, and that's kind of another out to getting around Spiritomb. We do have a Cyclone energy for Spiritomb, but like Silent Lab is just that extra boost to get around it. Having Spiritomb, it just shuts the deck off, not only for the item lock, but for the constant evolution. You're going to de-evolve them, red carded or whatever, and they'll be like, cool, Darkness Grace. And you're going to be like, well, crap. Like, that didn't do me any good. So Spiritomb is a big issue for this deck. I'm probably going to try to find a way to, like, edit this somehow. So, but Silent Lab does get around that item lock to at least give you a fighting chance. You're also going to have Parallel City. Now, this is awesome for a number of reasons, because you can Parallel City your opponent. They're going to, if they got any sort of setup, they might have to get rid of some of their setup Pokemon, and that's not great. But it also gives you a chance now, if they didn't get an early Baltoy or Porygon and you got that lockup easily, you can Parallel City them, and now that takes away all of their outs of like Level Ball, Ultra Ball, that sort of thing, where they would normally grab a Uxie or a Lapras. They can't bench it now because of their limited bench space. And then All Night Party was one that my buddy Austin, shout out to Austin if you're here, suggested, and I thought it was brilliant. It's just another out for that double tails on Mime Jr. If you don't have like a searching card, you can just keep All Night Party in play so that you can wake up when you need to if you stay asleep. So I like All Night Party in this deck quite a bit, and it also gives you that 6th stadium. Sometimes you can't hit a stadium, and with your early delinquents, like you need to hit that. Like it's a kind of you kind of gloss over that effect that you're like, oh, I actually need a stadium as well. So having that 6th stadium in here helps you hit that more like earlier in the game. Because sometimes I find myself hitting the combo but being like, oh, I actually don't have a stadium in play. I'm missing that portion. So this kind of helps you there. And then for energies here, like I said, you could use a basic energy. If I were to cut one, I think it would be Rescue Energy. We do have a lot of recovery in here to get that Mime Jr. flowing over and over again, just in case you are getting hit with like some not Kingdra, but like Seizure that does 20 or 30 damage for some reason, and you can't get a second de-evolve off. That just kind of helps you loop that a little bit extra. Warp Energies makes sense so that if you give them Lysander, which you do, because there's a lot of like switching effects, you give them Lysander so you can just play Warp Energy and switch out of it. Cyclone is for the Spiritomb, and then Call Energy is just kind of a better earlier energy because we don't play a lot of energies anyways, so hitting that Dunsparce can be kind of rare. So Call Energy helps you in that case. So I like all 4 of these energies. I think Rescue would be the one if you want to put a basic energy for that Rosie's Research like I was talking about. But really you only need 4. Bumblebee and Dunsparce are really like the only things that you're going to actually use them for. You could play a DCE in this deck if you wanted to activate Ambipom a little bit. Or if you wanted to be really, really cheeky, you could, instead of using Mime Jr., what you could do with this deck, instead of making it a Lost World oriented deck, you just get a Coco with a DCE, and you just give them bad cards with Slowking. You don't actually put them away, and then you Coco DCE them until they've run out of Pokemon. That's like the other way to play this deck, and I don't necessarily mind that too much, so that's another way to think about this. Cards I would consider Lusamine for sure. Getting back Silent Lab, getting back Lost World if it's gone, getting back Broken Time Space, that sort of thing. It's going to be kind of important. So Lusamine I don't mind. I don't mind a special charge in this deck, especially if you go for that Coco DCE route. One other thing. This Giratina Let Loose is actually the Marshadow. It has the same exact effect. It's just Marshadow's got 1 retreat. So there's your difference there. This it was just kind of a reprint of that arrow. What other cards you could put in here? We've gone through. Oh, Getsus is one that we put in. Last is just like strictly better, and you play Last kind of a different amount of times. And you may be thinking, wow, why is Last better? You could draw with Getsus. It's the whole supporter thing. That's why it's better, in my opinion, because I want to play more items than supporters. And the common debate about that is like, oh, if you play too many items, you're going to get Spirit Tuned out of game. Well, Getsus doesn't necessarily like help you with Spirit Tuning out of game necessarily. Because if they don't have items or they play their items before they switch into the Spirit Tomb, I don't know. I just don't like Getsus in U150 very much, and I tried it in this deck. I was like, yeah, this is the one deck for Getsus, and I just found myself never playing it because I was like, okay, it's early game of Spirit Tomb, Getsus is bad, I want to play other stuff, and then mid game I was like, man, it's going to use my supporter, I want to last instead. So that's kind of one of the reasons there. I've talked a lot about this deck, and the reason I have is because this is one deck we've actually played quite a bit of before I ended up presenting it to you guys, and because I was going to play it for the tournament, and I decided it just wasn't that great. But if you're going to go to the tournament, or if you're just playing at home, or if you're doing anything and you want a fun sort of locky deck to piss your friends off, I would say this one is great to do. I really need to try it with a damaging build. I really only tried it with the Mime Jr., so I will go to that and discuss that. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Look forward to the top 4 videos coming out this week, and tune into the stream hopefully next Friday if we can get that up and running. And comment, subscribe, and sell out, all that fun stuff. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.